Good evening. I hope everybody's having a good week and you're off to a stellar new year. Jimmy here in Chicago. There's always a lot of talk about made men and made guys, but you don't hear a lot about the associates. There's actually more associates than there are made men, especially these days. And some of the smarter associates keep a low profile, they fly low under the radar. Yet they're dangerous, and some of them are very capable. Today's story is going to be about the late associate here of the Chicago outfit, Joe LaMantia, aka Shorty LaMantia. Born and raised in Bridgeport, he was an associate of the Chicago outfit and a member of the 26th Street crew. I was first introduced to Shorty during the Family Secrets trial. I actually sat right next to his son, Rocky LaMantia, every day in court until Rocky got thrown out of court by Judge James Zagel. And I remember they would show, when they showed Rocky's mugshot on the big screen monitor in the courtroom, Rocky would elbow me really hard in the side and say, "Look, there's my dad." I'd look up at the monitor and then look over at Rocky, and sure enough, they were identical twins. Rocky looked just like his old man Shorty. But that was a legendary trial. There will never, ever be a trial like that. A couple unique things about the Family Secrets trial is, number one, it was about 14 unsolved murders dating back to the 1970s. And two of those murders were the brutal beatdown of the Spilotro brothers. You had a father whose own son and own brother testified against him, hence the name Family Secrets. And never, ever in the history of mob trials do the defendants get up and try to testify in their own defense. Usually they let their high-profile defense lawyers do all the talking. But at the Family Secrets trial, you had Joey Lombardo, who was in his late 70s. He probably figures, what do I got to lose? He testified in his own defense. And although Joey came across funny and charming, like my friend Dino said, they don't call him the clown for nothing. He had the whole courtroom laughing, including some of the jury members. Even the judge would crack a smile at times at some of Joey's jokes. The only people that weren't smiling or laughing was the prosecution team, that's for sure. But Joey could not handle the cross-examination of the very savvy, experienced Mitch Mars. Mitch Mars basically shredded Joey on the cross. And then you had Frank Calabrese. You can just imagine that being in the courtroom with this guy. He testified in his own defense. His defense was his brother and his son conspired to lock him up forever and steal millions of dollars from him, which is pretty much spot on. But the judge wouldn't allow Frank to go on and on like that, and Frankie was starting to lose his temper in the courtroom. And then you had Anthony Twan Doyle, a crooked cop, an associate of the Chinatown crew. He was on trial, and he decided he was going to take the stand, his own defense, not listening to his lawyers, and the prosecution destroyed him as well. But that was just some key highlights in Family Secrets trial. And we're going to talk today about Shorty LaMantia. If he was alive, he died shortly before the Family Secrets trial indictment. But if Shorty was alive, he definitely would have been sitting at the defense table with the rest of the defendants. Shorty, born and raised in Bridgeport, an associate of the Chicago outfit, and a member of the 26th Street crew. Not sure why he was never made, and I'd be curious if any of you guys know why he wasn't made. If you know, or if you have your opinion on that, but as we all know, he was a loyal, very close associate, and he was part of the 26th Street crew. Now, at these trials, you learn a lot of things, and I learned quite a bit at the Family Secrets trial. And one thing I learned, the prosecution broke down the differences between the crews. They said that the Grand Avenue crew, where I live, was the smallest, the most quietest crew, and they had some of the best burglars and thieves in the entire country. Then you had the North Side crew. That was the money crew. Rather than use violence, they pretty much went legit. They went to the stock market, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the Chicago Board of Trade, real estate, construction, cafes, bars, restaurants, grocery stores, you name it. And some of the other crews were actually jealous of the North Side crew because they were making all the money. Then you had the Wild Bunch crew from Taylor Street. Their MO, if they had a green light on a guy, was surprise, ski masks, shotguns, walkie-talkies, transmitters. They blast the guy away, broad daylight, and sometimes even leaving witnesses, New York style. Then they had the most lethal crew, the best killing crew, according to the prosecution, was the 26th Street crew. Anytime there was a high, important guy that had to be killed by the higher-ups, they usually gave that contract to the Chinatown crew. Or if another crew failed at doing a hit or was taking too long to get the hit accomplished, they cancel that and then give that contract to the Chinatown crew. These are just some of the crew members, but the 26th Street crew was led by Angelo the Bull, the Hook LaPetria. This guy was feared throughout the Chicago outfit. A lot of made men and associates never liked being around him. Frank Calabrese Sr. said he was the only one that could ever look him in the eyes. Angelo went away during the strawman case with Joey Iuppa, Jack Cerrone, guys from Kansas City, and others on the skimming of the casinos in Vegas. Angelo was also allegedly part of the hit team along with Jack Cerrone and Turk Torello when they brutally tortured and killed William Axon Jackson. Angelo was talked about quite a bit during the Family Secrets trial, and I'm going to do my very next show on Angelo LaPetria. There's a lot of interesting stories about him. Right next to him, you got Shorty LaMantia, associate of the Chicago outfit and a loyal member of the 26th Street crew. And then you got at one time Johnny Apes, Johnny Montalone. He was boss of the 26th Street crew as well. And during the Family Secrets trial, Ronnie Jarrett's son was on tape asking Nick Ferriola who killed my father and why. And rather than bullshit him, Nick Ferriola told him that your father had a beef with Johnny Montalone, Johnny Apes, and Johnny Apes was the one responsible. I'm sorry, that wasn't on tape, but that was what Ronnie Jarrett testified to. Also, Johnny Apes gave the green light to kill Ronnie Jarrett. Ronnie Jarrett was getting ready to go to a friend's funeral, and I think right across the street from his home there in Bridgeport, right on Low Street, the alleged trigger man was Tough Tony Calabrese. He pulled up, got out, and killed Ronnie Jarrett right there in Bridgeport across the street from his house. But Johnny Apes was the guy that gave the green light there. Then on the right next to him, you got Jimmy the Lapper, Jimmy LaPetria, Angelo LaPetria's brother. Nick Calabrese testified that Jimmy Marcello picked up Jimmy LaPetria, John Feccarata, and Nick Calabrese at a Venture parking store in a real fancy minivan and drove them to the house in Bensonville. Nick Calabrese also went on to say that Jimmy LaPetria participated in the brutal beatdown of Tony and Michael Spilotro. And then you got there one of Angelo's top enforcers, number one loan shark in Chicago, Frank Calabrese. He was the main defendant at the family secrets trial. They got him on participating in several murders, and his MO was to stalk a guy for 2-3 months, get to learn their habits, their traits. Then they'd surprise them or lure them to a place. They jump them, strangle them, and then Frank Calabrese would usually slit the guy's throat from ear to ear. Shorty LaMantia worked for Frank Calabrese. That's who he reported to. Then you got Frank's brother, Nick Calabrese. He was the government's star witness at the family secrets trial. He testified how he killed a couple of his friends. One of them was John Fecarata. He also testified how he slit John Mendel's throat from ear to ear. Nick went on to say that their very first murder they did, he was so scared he pissed his pants, and luckily he was wearing navy blue pants because he didn't want his brother Frank to know that he was that scared. But I found Nick mostly credible on the stand. He sat there stone cold, showed no remorse, no emotion at all. He got a little emotional talking about when they almost blew up Mrs. Cagnoni's wife, and maybe a few other times. But for the most part, he was pretty stoic, not intimidated at all by his brother Frank. But I did find that a couple little white lies that Nick told, and if I'm on that jury, that I could very easily say that's reasonable doubt. Big part of the family secrets trial, and another defendant who would have been sitting at the defense table if he wasn't killed, you got John Fecarata. He was Nick Calabrese's best friend. And throughout the trial, the government said how Fecarata made a lot of mistakes when they all met out in Nevada to kill the Splatros. Fecarata was gambling. He was spending a lot of money. He would also take some of his girlfriends out on mob business. He owed a couple higher-ups in the outfit $200,000, and he was ducking them. And then one of the last straws, he disrespected Frank Calabrese, and he also was one of the guys that botched the Splatros burial. Those two brothers' bodies were supposed to never be found. He would never get in a car with any of his friends here or members of the 26th Street crew, but he did trust Nick Calabrese, and as we all know, Nick Calabrese ended up killing John Fecarata right there near Belmont, Austin. And then in the middle, you got Shorty's adopted son, another associate of the outfit and a member of the 26th Street crew. You got Aldo. This guy, they got him on tape threatening a couple deadbeat gamblers. He's got a really cool Al Capone tattoo. I've never met Aldo, but I definitely heard some stories about him. This guy is somewhat of a legend in the Bridgeport neighborhood. He never ratted, he never rolled, and definitely a force to be reckoned with. And then, of course, you've got the Caruso family. I mean, they've got the Chicago outfit in their DNA. They led the 26th Street crew back then and probably still so today. And then you got the very powerful Rohde family as well. But these are just some of the members of the 26th Street crew. You also got guys like Neff, Angelo LaPetria's nephew, Tallarico. You've got Jimmy DeForty, who they would call Poker. You got Ronnie Jarrett, Frankie Galino. The list goes on and on and on. But to me, this was probably the most lethal crew out of all the crews was the 26th Street crew. Now, during one of the tapes they played, they got Frank Sr. talking in code to his brother Junior, how when him and Shorty LaMantia were locked up together in Milan, Michigan, Shorty made the mistake. He told a couple Philly and a couple New York wise guys that he was a made member of the Chicago outfit. And when the guys questioned Frank Calabrese later on in jail, he got very upset with Shorty. And when he got him alone, he smacked him around, stuck his finger in his face, and screamed at him, "Don't ever make that mistake again. You're just an associate." So, just to show you what a prick Frank Calabrese was, I can't even imagine how Shorty dealing with Frank Calabrese 24/7, 365 days a year. But that just goes to show you what it was like dealing with Frank Calabrese. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this was an adopted son of Joe LaMattia. Aldo, associate of the Chicago outfit. He was somewhat of a lieutenant of their multi-million-dollar illegal gambling operation that they had going on. They pretty much controlled the entire South Side, including Chinatown and Bridgeport. You got to love the Al Capone tattoo. This guy, they actually got him on tape threatening a couple deadbeat gamblers. I wish I had those tapes to play. But this gentleman did his time like a man, never ratted, never rolled, and was a loyal an associate of the 26th Street crew, Shorty's adopted son. Another one of Shorty LaMantia's sons is Rocky LaMantia. I actually met Rocky prior to the Family Secrets trial, and as I mentioned, I sat next to him during the Family Secrets trial. I didn't know it at the time. I found it out later, but several years ago, Rocky accidentally killed his girlfriend, a neighborhood girl from Bridgeport. Everybody knew her. Everybody loved her and her family, and he got in a lot of trouble. He turned himself in, and kind of a funny story here. It's a tragedy, but this part's funny. Shorty LaMattia and a couple of guys from the neighborhood, when they turned him in, they told him to keep his mouth shut, and they were going to get him a good lawyer. So Rocky's in the back of the police car, and they could hear him outside yelling and talking shit. So they walked up to the police car, opened the door, dragged Rocky out of the car, and beat him to a pulp, literally giving him a pumpkin head. Now, just to show you how a high-ranking associate, not even a made guy like Joe Shorty LaMattia, just to show you the power he had in his connections through the 26th Street crew in the First Ward, through a crooked lawyer, they got the right judge that they could work with, and through Alderman Fred Rohde and Pat Marcy, they bribed the judge $10,000. Rocky was acquitted. He was found not guilty of murdering his girlfriend. Everybody was shocked, especially people in the neighborhood who were very close to Rocky and the girlfriend. It's a slap in the face to that poor girl. I'd rather not mention her name. You can see it in the story I did about Rocky. But Rocky LaMattia was found not guilty of murdering his girlfriend because Shorty LaMattia's connections to the First Ward, they bribed the judge, and basically the judge threw the case out. They found him not guilty. So that's pretty powerful. For 10 grand, you could actually beat a murder rap in the city of Chicago. Another funny story, they talked about the Family Secrets trial was one day Shorty was summoned to Angelo's club. And when he got to the club, Angelo motioned for him to go to the room next door. When Shorty walked in, unannounced, he saw a hit team, guys from his crew that were getting ready for a birthday party. That was Frank Calabrese's code word for a murder. When it was somebody had to go, they referred to it as their birthday. And Nick said sometimes he would say, "Should I bring a present?" And Frank would say, "Yeah, maybe bring her a nice bracelet," meaning bring some handcuffs. But Shorty walked in to the room next to the club. He saw the guys getting ready for the hit. They were cleaning their guns. They had their golf clubs on. And he was scared shitless. He thought the hit was from him. The hit was for him. And all the guys in the club were busted out laughing. They thought it was hilarious. But that was a close call for Shorty LaMattia. He thought that his good friends and the guys in his crew, in his own crew, were going to kill him. But it was really, these guys were getting ready to kill Butchie Petrocelli, Butchie from the Wild Bunch. Now, at first, the feds got it wrong. When they found Butch Petrocelli's body, they thought that he was tortured with a blowtorch because there was a black burnt smoke across his face. But years later, Nick Calabrese testified that when they lured Butchie to Angelo Petria's club, Angelo Petria motioned, he said to Nick, "Go take out the garbage." So when Nick went next door, they jumped Butchie, they strangled him and killed him. Nick testified that when they were going to dump the body, that he threw a flare in the back seat, but he forgot to crack the window, and that's what caused the smoke on Butchie's face. But they also went on to say, Nick went on to say that Frank Calabrese hated Butch Petrocelli with a passion, and he pleaded with Angelo on a few sit-downs if they could have him killed. But the bosses had enough. Allegedly, he was skimming money from Harry Alleman. When Harry Alleman was in prison, he was fucking around with a maid guy's wife. He was also hanging out on a rush street with a small army of 15, 20 guys. They were all getting wild out there like cowboys, drawing a lot of heat. The mob bosses had enough. They lured him to Angelo's club, and he eventually got strangled and killed. But he was one of the victims at the family secrets trial. Now, another funny story Nick told about the hook. He said that Nick Calabrese said that he would go by Angelo's compound once a week, and he would fill his barbecue mitt with cash. So when Angelo was in his kitchen, he would look out on his deck. If the mitt was facing up, that meant there was no money in it. But a few days later, when Angelo would look out the window, and if he saw the mitt was down, he knew he could walk out there and it'd be stuffed in cash. Thought that was kind of funny. Nick Calabrese also testified that Frank Calabrese and Ronnie Jarrett, they were asked by Angelo to make them a special gun, and that gun was the same gun that was used in the killing of Sam Momo Giancana. Angelo Petria went on to say that he told his brother Jimmy that we should do something about these Calabrese brothers, meaning split them up, break them up, or kill them, because he knew eventually they'd be a problem for the 26th Street crew. And sure enough, Nick Calabrese ends up flipping and brings down pretty much what's left of the Chicago outfit. Now, during one of the prison tapes, when Anthony Twan Doyle is visiting Frank Calabrese in Milan, Michigan, they're talking in code, but Twan asks him, "Hey, whatever happened to that guy Sammy Anarino?" And Frank Calabrese says that the bull shelved them, meaning they cut him off, and nobody associated with him, took all away his rackets, and then Calabrese said he shelved them. He really shelved them a second time. And during the sit down, Angelo took out a spike and out of nowhere just stabbed Sammy right in the shoulder. Didn't kill him, but just brutally stabbed him right there. Eventually, according to Nick Calabrese, Frank Calabrese, Shorty LaMattia, and Frankie Galindo, I forgot how to say his name, Goomba, I think, they were given the hit to kill Sammy Anarino. Eventually, that got called off, and the job was given to Scalise. And sure enough, Scalise from the Wild Bunch ended up killing this guy for the 26th Street crew. They talked about that during the family secret trial, that sometimes these crews would work together. Like the Wild Bunch crew actually worked with the 26th Street crew when they killed those low-life Dauber, Billy Dauber and his wife. Same thing when they brutally beat down the Spalatros. There was a couple guys from each crew that were present. Now, here's an old club they talked about at the Family Secrets Trial. It's still open today, still active. You can definitely go there next time you're in Bridgeport or near going to a White Sox game. I highly recommend it. There's also a little private social club down the street. But at one time during the Family Secrets Trial, Frank Calabrese said they had close to 5,000 paying members. And they said that Frankie Schweiss, Hitler, and Angelo LaPetria built this club with all the money they were extorting out of Chinatown. And then to the south of the club, they've got a couple American POW veteran flags with these little cobbled stones, and all Italian veterans that served in other Italian families from Bridgeport, their names are in there, kind of like little memorials. And if you go there, you could actually see Joe Shorty LaMattia. Him and his family were a legend in the Bridgeport neighborhood until this day, have a very solid reputation. But most of the time, believe it or not, these guys will actually let you in the club to actually walk around. My little buddy Stevie and I from Grand Avenue, we went there one day after the Family Secrets Trial, and we politely asked if we could walk around. And we walked in there. I remember seeing a couple card tables, a huge kitchen. They had all the black and white framed photos, and they had a nice pool table there. But that was pretty cool just to be inside that club. They also host barbecues and pig roasts and like benefit parties here. But definitely check it out if you're in the Bridgeport neighborhood. It's kind of like 31st, 33rd in Princeton, right a couple blocks from White Sox Park. Here's another old mob bar that Shorty LaMattia used to hang his hat, the Redwood Lounge. I mean, you could just look at that Art Deco style and tell it's right out of the 70s. It looks like a Wise Guy joint. But this was one of 12 bars that Shorty controlled. They basically were gambling out of here. They had the video poker machines. Shorty and a couple of his guys got pinched. Shorty did like 5 years, never ratted, never rolled, and did time with other Wise Guys. But this bar, I always drive by right there in Bridgeport, right there on 32nd. I forget the cross street there. It might be Shields. But pretty cool little place here. This is one of Shorty's hangouts. And then we've got my favorite photo of Joe Shorty LaMattia. You can see he lost a little weight there. Handsome guy. Now, I know two of the guys in the photo. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 other guys besides Joe. I want to know if you can name every guy in the photo. Obviously, with the exception of the guy with his face blacked out. Please enter those names in the comments. But again, legend in the Chicago outfit. Should have been a made member, but for some reason was not. I think that had a lot to do with Angelo the Bull. But this guy worked directly right under Frank Calabrese, was a loyal associate, never ratted, never rolled, and made a fortune, I forgot to mention, in the hired truck program. Fast forward, unfortunately for Shorty, Joe LaMattia died in 2002 at the young age of 68 years old. He had some heart issues, and I'm pretty sure the stress of being around Angelo LaPetria and working under Frank Calabrese definitely took its toll. But God bless Rocky LaMattia, his son, who I got a chance to know and meet and laugh with. And God bless Joe Shorty LaMattia, a close associate of the Chicago outfit and a member of the 26th Street crew. That's my story today. My associate, Joe Shorty LaMattia. May he rest in peace. The next story I'm going to do is about Angelo the Bull LaPetria. That should be a pretty good one. If you like my Chicago mob trials, please hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends. I always like your comments. And for the few trolls and haters I have out there, put out the cigarette, go cash your check, and take the old lady to Ruth Chris, will ya? God bless.